Let's roll, baby. Welcome in. It is East Coast Bias right here for our friends on FanDuel TV with the NBA playoffs in full swing. A lot of games to break down. A lot of reactions, overreactions, all of the above. We got you covered every which way. John Jastremski alongside my amigos, Raheem Palmer, Joe House. Got two NBA playoff games to break down right out of the gate. We're kind of doing this a little differently today because we're feeling the vibes of Monday night. We had a dramatic game at Madison Square Garden, which we will get to. But House, we begin with the best series, hands down, no questions asked. As far as the quality of play, as far as the games that we have watched, Clippers and Nuggets, you've gotten two exhilarating games, two games that have come down to the wire. And I was sweating out the Clippers. I was biting my fingernails, as we discussed earlier today. Kawhi Leonard, my man, wouldn't let him lose. Clippers find a way in this series, despite Russell Westbrook's best efforts and a whole lot of lunacy. You get the split, you take it if you're Tyronn Lue and company.
Oh, 1,000%. And how blessed are we to get a vintage Kawhi Leonard game at this stage in that man's career. He served notice in the first quarter, came out, didn't miss his first 5 shots, was really just playing iso ball. I mean, they really did not, do anything too crazy. They just let him have the ball. They got switches, into some defensive mismatches that they wanted. But it was basically just let Kawhi cook. And, the game ultimately was going to come down to which of the others was going to show up, because they got another solid game from Zubac, and Harden was not up to the same standard as game one, but I think we're all kind of accustomed to that. But they needed something, and down the stretch, Norm Powell showed a little bit of life. He hit a humongous 3. He kept going to the hole, but really it was all about Kawhi, and I'm so pleased to be here to say I watched it live, Dream.
Yeah, I'm pleased to see that as well. I mean, you got to love Kawhi Leonard. I mean, 15 of 19 from the field, 39 points. He had 5 assists. It didn't seem like he was passing too much, but, I mean, he was absolutely lighting the Denver Nuggets up. The Nuggets, they allowed him to go one-on-one at the end of the game. I thought that was a little bit of a mistake. But, ultimately, you look at the Denver Nuggets, this was a winnable game despite the fact that Kawhi Leonard went off. I mean, the Denver Nuggets, they had 20 turnovers tonight. Like, you can't win with 20 turnovers. They turned the ball over on 21% of their possessions. And ultimately, that's what decided the game. That and missed free throws down the stretch. And then obviously, Aaron Gordon had that missed dunk.
Oh, my goodness. How do you miss that dunk, Raheem? How do you miss it?
I don't know. But at the end of the day, the Clippers got all of the bounces and they were able to win and cover the spread for us. But ultimately, I think this is going to be a 7-game series because it feels like it seems like every game in this series has been a coin flip, and I expect that to continue.
And I think we'll see more of that. House, at the end of this game, as someone that had a Clipper ticket, not only for the series, but for game 2 specifically, I have my heart in my throat, the lump in the throat, whatever the expression is, I'm screwing it up. It doesn't matter. When I see Denver get 2 shots off there at the end of the game, you want to tell me Christian Brown, you couldn't foul him, it was too chaotic, fine. The minute Denver gets their 10 zillionth offensive rebound in this game, Joker gets the ball. How do you not foul the Joker there? My goodness, I'm screaming, foul, foul, foul. They don't. I know it works out. House, I never subscribe to that. I'm always fouling up 3.
I don't disagree, but we were in that chaos. We were in that crazy, confused, off of a rebound kind of moment. So they didn't foul at the outset of the play. So I think it was fine to play it out, even though the logic of fouling there certainly made sense, especially the Joker, who keeps missing free throws, Dream. Joker keeps missing important free throws down the stretch here.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely stunning to see him miss these free throws down the stretch. But, I wanted to ask you guys this because this has been bothering me, because you look at the Clippers and the way they're playing defense, and they're completely selling out on, shooters. And I know Russell Westbrook isn't a great 3-point shooter, but at some point, it's like you're leaving these guys wide open. You're telegraphing the double, and it's just like, these are still NBA players. And I feel like that's hurting the Clippers. What's your thoughts on that?
It's interesting, House. I'm always of the mindset, when in doubt, leave Russell Westbrook open. I don't trust his ability to knock down shots. That said, he's knocked down a lot of big ones in the first 2 games of this series. I think you got to still play the math. I think you still got to play the numbers. But I think there will come a point if he's going to continue to burn you from the outside, got to pay a little bit more attention to him. That's the way I see it, Dream.
Yeah, and Dream, I actually don't mind it. I mean, even with the sellout, the Nuggets shot 44% from three. I mean, they really were kind of in their bag for the kind of offense that they like to run. They were efficient both from the field and from three-point range, and a lot of that came from how dominant they were rebounding-wise. Another humongous rebounding edge for the Denver Nuggets, but they turned the ball over. The Clippers got 21 points off of the 20 Nugget turnovers, and that was the difference.
Fellas, we have 2 games now played in this series. Series shifts back to Los Angeles. We've been talking about this series price a lot because it's been rather interesting to us. 2 evenly matched teams, best player in the world on one side was an underdog with home court advantage. Raheem, the series price on FanDuel has now been jacked up to the Clippers being favored by -174. I thought we'd see -140. I thought maybe we'd see 150. Surprised it's gotten as high as -174?
When you look at -174, that denotes a 63% chance of winning this series. And based on what we've seen thus far in this series, you can't tell me that the Clippers have a 63% chance at winning this series at all. But obviously, this is correlated to the game spreads. And the Clippers are 5-point favorites in game 3. And a 5-point favorite, you're looking at about 68% chance of winning that game. Now, I'm not sure if those numbers are accurate, but I mean, based on how the Clippers have played the post All-Star break, I mean, you're talking about a team that went 18-2 at one point in time, and they've been absolutely rolling. So that's why the books are pricing it that way. But if you ask me, I think this is a little bit too high.
I totally agree with Dream. I mean, the 5 points is crazy to me. The price for the series is crazy to me. This is a coin flip. I think it's going to be I'm going to gamble on it as a coin flip series until demonstrated otherwise, because the Clippers still are waiting for a couple of their others, and it might yet come at home. I mean, the number suggests that Chris Dunn is going to wake up and understand that he's playing playoff basketball. Derek Jones really hasn't done very much to contribute. Bogdanovich is a heady player, but he can't knock down any shots. Batum, still my guy. I'm big Batum. I think he needs more minutes than 18 minutes. But it was good to see Norm Powell come down the stretch. But to me, this is a coin flip series. I would not. I'm going to probably play Denver plus the points in game 3.
I've not seen that number yet, Dream. What are we looking at for game 3? Nuggets, Clippers having a game at home.
Well, it's Clippers -5. And you're looking at an over-under of 214.5. The total is like steadily climbing down. I mean, you saw game 1, it was like 222 or so. Game 2 was like 218. So there's a reason why this total was, it's decreasing, because you got a slow pace series, and the Clippers are just power rated higher than the Nuggets at this point in time. So that's why it's so high.
Gents, let's get to the other game that was played on Monday evening, and it's obviously not going to sit well with me. The New York Knicks were lethargic. They were haphazard. They were sloppy with the basketball. They set basketball back to the 1990s when I grew up watching the New York Knicks with what I saw in the first 3 quarters of the game. That said, though, House, for as poorly as the Knicks played, they were down by as many as 13 points. Even with Cade Cunningham cooking, he was much better in game 2. Detroit did everything in their power to allow the Knicks to come back to maybe steal game number 2, to the point where I thought they were going to do it. But the Knicks gave up 5 first-round picks to go and get, had about 4 point-blank shots that he couldn't knock home. The bigger story in this game to you, my friend, is that Mikal Bridges, at the end of crunch time, just completely falling apart and lemoning out. Best way to put it is a lemon, as far as I'm concerned, with the trade the Knicks made. Or is it Karl Anthony Towns, who basically had 3 touches in the second half? The bigger deal to you?
For me, it's Towns, and I really don't understand what's going on with this Knicks team. They had the ability to really explore some stuff with Brunson's injury, and they got into a ball movement offense while Brunson was out that looked pretty efficient. And yet Brunson comes back, his shooting stroke is not there, and he's just pounding the life out of the ball. I mean, they are using up the entire shot clock with that man dribbling the basketball and getting into some kind of action with about 4.5 seconds left in the shot clock. Karl Anthony Towns played 12 minutes the entire fourth quarter and got 0 shots up. I don't understand what the point of this is. Look, I mean, the Knicks did come back. There was 6 minutes left. The Pistons were up 10 points, and the Knicks came all the way back. It was 90-80 with 6:12 left, and the Knicks came all the way back. It took a massive amount of energy, but part of the handicap of this series when we came in was the advantages in talent that we ascribed to the Knicks. The Pistons bench is beating the pants off of the Knicks bench. I think this game, it was 35-8, the Pistons bench over the Knicks bench. That's just not getting the job done, JJ. And Karl Anthony Towns' disappearing act, it's not his fault. I don't understand that. I would recommend that Tibbs not sit down because that seat is hot as hell, buddy.
I want to hit on this because House detailed something I think is totally fair with Towns. Is it coach? Is it Brunson? Is it Towns? Does he have to be like, dude, get me the damn ball? Like, you got to assert yourself there, right? Like, to me, I've been trying to figure this out. You guys know I did a post-game New York right after the game number 2 finished up. Raheem, where does that blame go? I know you're dying to get in on this, but I'm trying to figure out an answer.
I'm putting the blame on Tibbs because when I look at this offense, I feel like I'm watching the 2001 76ers. For as much as Allen Iverson was jacking, it's because he was playing with Tyrone Hill. He was playing with Eric Snow. He was playing with George Lynch. He didn't have offensive talent around him the way that Jalen Brunson has right now. They're completely ignoring Karl Anthony Towns. Like, honestly, we've been criticizing Mikal Bridges, but when you look at this offense, it's really just Jalen Brunson pounding the rock into the ground and basically playing like 2001 Allen Iverson. And how can anybody get into rhythm like that? And I think, when Jalen Brunson got hurt, I know a lot of people were asking, is it a blessing in disguise? Because, maybe some other guys can get involved. You saw OG Anunoby step up, but it just feels like we're playing Brunson ball. And this is almost like a mini version of James Harden or a mini version of Luka Doncic, a mini version of Allen Iverson, just that heliocentric ball style. And they're not capitalizing on one of the best big men shooters of all time in Karl Anthony Towns. Like, this offense has to get creative, and I blame Tibbs for it.
They're now 1-1. Detroit has outplayed them in this series. Cade Cunningham came to life, and now they go back to Detroit for game number 3 on Thursday. The spread is basically pick 'em. I'm seeing Detroit as a 1-point favorite on Thursday night. How's the series price, though? Even with Detroit now having, in theory, home court advantage, Knicks is still minus 250 to win the series. Should I be hitting the panic button?
I wouldn't hit the panic button, but I would hit the bet on the Pistons button because what they showed us tonight in their ability to immediately establish some poise after they fell apart in game 1 down the stretch. Now, the Knicks did get this game tied with inside of 2 minutes left after being down 10, but Schroeder stepped up and
monstrous
Beasley,
shot. Monstrous.
Beasley didn't have an incredible game. I mean, he's been a very, very important scorer for them. The Pistons are tough. They get to the free throw line. I mean, the big difference in this game was all the free throws that they took, and that's because they earned them. They were going to the hole, and they were getting fouled, and they were playing physical basketball, and I thought they out-physicaled the Knicks, JJ.
Raheem, Detroit, you surprised this still is big an underdog, even after winning this game and the way they've looked the first 2 games of the series?
I'm not that surprised. They were like the Knicks were like minus 450.
Minus 400, yeah.
Yeah. But, interestingly enough, the Pistons are 1-point favorites at home in game 3. So,
and from a Knicks standpoint, guys, they can't lose Karl Anthony Towns. Now, that said, Bridges, we talk about in rhythm. He played basically this entire game. He actually was all right for the first 3 quarters. But it just goes to show you sometimes in those big moments for him, some guys have it and some guys don't. They set him up nicely on a bunch of those shots. I mean, if he hits, despite the Knicks playing as poorly as they did, guys, if he hits one of those shots, I think they win the game. I'm dead serious. I think they win the game.
The big one for me, I think they were down, it was 97-94. Bridges... But here's the thing. He actually grabs the rebound and dribbles it down into an open three-pointer himself. And I kind of got flashbacks of, Kevin Durant in the, 2017 finals where he did that in game 3. And I was just like, I didn't think he was going to hit it. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't think he was going to hit it.
I said to people that I was watching the game with, I do not want Bridges taking this shot. I wanted either Brunson, Anunoby, or Towns taking the shot, and I didn't get it. They will have absolutely no chance of winning a game against the Celtics if this is how they think they're going to beat Boston.
You and I are in agreement. I mean, if this is the identity of this Knicks team, that Boston series price, Boston will be a prohibitive favorite, and I'll bet Boston to win 4-1.
Boys, we have a lot more coming up in this loaded Tuesday edition of East Coast Bias. We had 2 very eventful Game 2s at the Garden in Denver. We'll dive into Rockets, Warriors. We'll dive into the Timberwolves and the Lakers. The Lakers in serious trouble. East Coast Bias, boys, coming right back on FanDuel TV. Welcome back. We had eventful games across the weekend from a storyline telling type of standpoint. What do I mean by that? Lakers, Timberwolves. Raheem, last year, Luka Doncic ate the Timberwolves lunch. He killed them in the Western Conference Finals for Dallas. You had the Lakers in game 1, though, against Minnesota. Not looking prepared, not looking ready for the moment, not being able to deal with the size that Minnesota was able to throw their way. And Dream, at least for game 1, I was all over this sucker. I love Minnesota to come out guns a-blazing. And where I stand now is I know the Lakers are going to respond. I know LeBron James teams and Luka Doncic teams are not going to go quietly into the night. This is going to be a long series. The question I have for you, Dream, immediately, do the Los Angeles Lakers have answers, though, for all of the cavalcade and the variety of size and bodies that Chris Finch of Minnesota can throw their way?
This one's tough for me because you guys know I did take the over 5.5 games in this series, and I did not pick, the Lakers or the Wolves. I did not place a bet on them, but I did get caught up in the vibes of a Luka Doncic and LeBron James, and I just kind of assumed that they would win this series. But it feels like the Lakers are in trouble because, Rudy Gobert only played 24 minutes, and they don't have to have him out there, because they have enough size with Julius Randle and Naz Reid, and the Lakers don't have any size. And it just felt like they gave up everything. They gave up three-point shooting. You're talking about a Wolves team that had a 65% effective field goal percentage. And it just felt like the Wolves, they got any open look that they wanted, inside and outside. And we know that the Wolves aren't going to shoot 21 or 42 from behind the arc. We know that Jalen McDaniels is not going to drop 25 points every single game. But I do think there are plenty matchup advantages that the Wolves have. And Anthony Edwards, it feels like he can match the output of Luka Doncic in this series. So, I'm not going to make a pick or anything like that for this series. I'm still thinking this goes over 5.5 games, but I'm a little worried about the Lakers.
Well, I am going to make a pick on the series, and I have already done so. I jumped right into the FanDuel Sportsbook and bet the Minnesota Timberwolves to win this series in 4-1 at plus 590.
Wow,
and I went
five-gamer in Los Angeles.
Tiny hedge. Tiny hedge. You can also bet 4-2, plus 330. I think it is right now, plus 350. I can't read my own writing, but in any event, Dream just hit on it. We watched Minnesota have a multiplicity of approaches. Ant didn't have a great shooting night. He shot 8 for 22 from the field. So you can say on the one hand, yes, Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid are not going to shoot, the lights out, and the Timberwolves are not going to shoot 50% from 3. We didn't really get a signature Anthony Edwards game. He was an excellent playmaker. He was excellent on defense. The problem for the Lakers is they don't have enough dudes. They just showed us they can't play Jackson Hayes. He's not going to play much more than any kind of substitution minutes, which will be less than 10 minutes. But more concerning for them, Rui Hachimura was not up to the task. The dude does not have the force. He doesn't have the ability to bring the physicality. He played 30 minutes. They were very inconsequential, so much so, again, plus minus, you take it with a grain of salt, minus 26 for Rui. They're much better off giving that time to Gabe Vincent, who's played in big-time clutch playoff moments. But Gabe Vincent's a little guy. The other guy that needs to get that time is Jared Vanderbilt. I mean, he only got 3 shots up. DFS is out there, but the rotation is about 7 guys that you trust. Where's the scoring coming from? It puts so much pressure on LeBron and on Luka to be super efficient. And you need one of those guys in Gabe Vincent or DFS or Jared Vanderbilt or all 3 to be knocking down threes to keep pace with this Minnesota team that can play inside and outside and big and small. I think the Lakers are in trouble, fellas.
Now, Raheem, when we look ahead to this Game 2 line that's going to be played on Tuesday, on FanDuel, at the moment, the Lakers are laying 5.5. Are you paying, in your opinion, a tax here? 0-1, at home, must-win type vibe scenario, whatever you want to call it for the Lakers. Is that being factored into this line, you think?
It's definitely being factored into this line because the Game 1 line closed at Lakers -4. And look, if you look at this line, it's so interesting because this opened up Lakers -5.5. It got all the way up to 6.5. And it seems like some sharp money has taken, some action on the Wolves back. So I think you're going to see sharp money on both sides of this game. And, one of the interesting things about the NBA postseason is we have the zigzag theory. The team who lost Game 1, you play them Game 2. If you want to, go into your database and you want to look at how teams do after a Game 1 loss, let's break that down to top 3 seeds. Top 3 seeds are 32-20, 61% against the spread after a Game 1 loss. So it's kind of a positive expected value wager to take those top 3 seeds and just blindly bet them in Game 2 if they lost Game 1. So I think a lot of people are going to be doing that.
How's any interest getting involved with Minnesota plus the points tonight again?
Only for grabbing the points. I mean, I think that there are certain elements of what Minnesota brings to the table in terms of their ability to get out in transition, and it's literally the worst thing defensively for the Lakers, and I don't think that they have an answer for it because I think Minnesota is going to continue to control the boards. Here's the reason why I'm not going to step in any kind of significant way. Wait till you see the whistle that comes out.
Yeah. No,
that's not
a joke.
About
that.
I mean,
no, it's real.
Wrong.
It's real. If they get through, LeBron will start going to the hole and he will start getting calls, and you will see Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid in foul trouble. I wish I could bet on total number of fouls. Somebody needs to give me a prop on how many free throws the Lakers are going to take. If you set it at 25, I'll take the over. That's what's going to happen in this game too.
The funny thing is in Game 1, the Lakers weren't called for any fouls for like the first 2 quarters. Now, you could say that's a bad thing because it's probably a bad thing for the Lakers that they weren't called for any fouls because that meant that they just left everybody wide open. So they just weren't playing any defense. So, I expect the Lakers to not get called for a ton of fouls. I expect them to be a lot more physical. And then I expect them to go to the line, just like House said. So I think you're going to have a lot of people backing the Lakers here. It's tough for the NBA to, see the Lakers go down 0-2. But this Wolves team has proven that they're not afraid of anybody because, they went into Denver last year and, won the first 2 games of that series. So I don't think you can sleep on this team at all.
Listen, as someone that has Timberwolves -1.5 games, I will have absolutely no problem with Minnesota finding a way to win a game number 2. Going to be asking a lot when you mention, the desperation of the Lakers, LeBron, Luka, the officiating that might come into play. Very, very tough spot for Minnesota in Game 2. No question about it. Okay, House. We talked about a team that didn't play any defense in the Lakers in Game 1. I want to talk about a team that played some unbelievable defense, or was it just terrible offense from the Houston Rockets? I think it's probably a combination of the two. We know Golden State has been a tremendous defensive team since they made the Jimmy Butler trade. I got to be fair on this, House. I liked Golden State for this series. I parlayed them with the Knicks at -1.5 games. I didn't like them in Game 1. I thought playing the play-in, I thought Houston getting back in the postseason for the first time, we were going to get a better version of the Houston Rockets. We talk about playoff inexperience. There's a whole lot there. outside of Van Vliet, outside of Dillon Brooks, and Steven Adams, who actually was probably one of the best Rocket players in game one of this series, you had a lot of the perimeter players not being ready to go for the Rockets. And then the other guy who can basically go, as Jimmy Butler said, and put the Batman cape on anytime he wants. He was ready to go. He was giving it to CJ Stroud. He was spectacular. Is this one game, and I should say, hey, JJ, Houston's going to have their moments here in this series? Or was this just the classic case of, oh, boy, I don't know if Houston is ready for this? Where do you stand after game one?
Well, I think it's both, but I don't think Houston has a solution to the problem that they're confronted with here. That was an appalling offensive performance. That was abysmal. They had 60 points through 3 quarters. And yes, there's some stage fright. 5 out of their 8 rotation guys, it was their very first ever playoff game, but it wasn't Van Vliet's first playoff game. And that man took 19 shots and made 4 of them. The problem with Houston is they run a high post offense. Everything runs through Sengun. And that man is still a work in progress. I'll just say it the way I saw it. He doesn't have the hoops IQ to run that position. He hesitates every single time that he gets the ball in the high post and they initiate offense. There is a half of a beat, and it's too long. Golden State's defense is on him by the time he's figured out what he wants to do. So his default many times was to shoot, and he had an efficient shooting night, and he had a lot of good offensive rebounds. But it seems like Houston's offensive game plan running through that high post is to get shots up and try and crash the boards and try and get a second shot. They offensive rebounded at a 47% rate, but it didn't matter. They couldn't knock down one shot from outside. Jalen Green 3 for 15. That backcourt performance was, a bottom 5 performance over the last 15 years out of a backcourt. I don't see the fix. I don't see Jalen Green knocking down those shots. I don't see FVV knocking down those shots. We've been talking about how bad the half-court offense is for Houston all season long. And you know what Golden State did? They put him in the half court and said, go ahead and try and beat us. Golden State never even broke a sweat. I didn't see them really exerting themselves. It was an excellent game plan defensively. They executed it perfectly. They had their 2 big dogs. Dream. I don't see a path for Houston.
Wow. So watching that game, I felt like I was transported to my childhood because that was 90s basketball.
That was Knicks. I was going to say Knicks Heat, although that's not fair. That might be a little too low scoring. Maybe Knicks Pacers because you had Curry and Reggie Miller. I got to give you a shooter, Raheem.
You got a pace of 89 possessions in that game. You had the Houston Rockets with the offensive rating of 65. They're scoring 0.65 points per possession in the half court. To put that in perspective, that's in the 4th percentile of all NBA games. That's how bad this Houston Rockets offense was. And they had an effective field goal percentage of 43. So we know this team can't score in the half court. But I do think there is something there for this Houston Rockets team because for as bad as that offense was, this was a 3-point game at multiple times in the 4th quarter. And Steph Curry had to hit some of the most amazing shots that I've ever seen in my life in order to, win that game. So Houston was right there despite the fact that the offense was bad and Jalen Green went 3 of 15 in his first playoff game. Fred VanVleet, who couldn't miss in the 2019 playoffs when the Raptors won the championship, he was 4 for 19. So I think there's room for improvement. You do have to remember that this is a younger team, and they're going up against a Warriors defense, which is very solid. But I think the path for Houston is to just go big with Steven Adams and, just try to out-rebound this team and, just generate a ton of second-chance points. They had a 44% offensive rebound rate, and I don't know if that's necessarily going to change. So I don't know if the Rockets are going to win this series. I don't think they're going to win this series, but I do think they're going to win game 2, and I think, they have a chance of making this a long series. So I'm taking the Rockets -2 for game 2. There's a reason why they're laying this much in game 2. So I'm rolling with them.
Okay, Raheem, you make the case for Houston in game 2. Plus games in the series. Rockets, +1.5, +164. Any interest?
I have no interest in that because,
okay.
if the Warriors win this in 6, then like it's I mean, you get killed. So I mean, right now FanDuel Sportsbook, they have the Rockets plus 2.5 games minus 188. I wouldn't take that either. I think the way to play this is just to play the Rockets in game 2, and if you win, you kind of got to get out of there and approach things as things
game
move
to game.
game to game, or as things move to Golden State. But I do think there's some things that the Rockets can do to win a couple games in this series, but I don't want to trust them in that half-court offense to win the series or, have to take this to game 7.
So here's my problem, House. My basketball lean absolutely screams you got to take Houston in game 2. But as someone that picked Golden State for the series, as someone that went against Golden State in game 1, I'm going to feel like a moron if I take the Rockets. And I'm like, well, I picked Golden State for the series. Yeah, I'm sitting there and I bet Houston in game 1, and I'm going to bet them again in game 2. I almost feel like conflicted now and not going near this game. It's a problem for me.
Yeah, I'm not messing with this game 2. The problem I have is the Rockets had their way in the areas that they're supposed to be dominant. They out-rebounded Golden State 52-36. They had points in the paint, the point in the paint advantage 54-34. But they turned the ball over and they missed free throws, and that's sloppy, and that's what an inexperienced team does. Going along with the missed shots that are out there, I just felt like at no point, even though Houston cut the deficit, at no point did I think they were going to win that basketball game. And Golden State did not get great performances from anyone other than Steph and Jimmy Butler. So if one of their role guys steps up, just one of them, then Houston is cooked, in my opinion. I
want to know why Jonathan Kuminga is not playing, because that's still not making sense.
Listen, hey, Steve. I mean, here's the bottom line on Kuminga, though. Listen, I think Steve Kerr knows his team better than we do, right? Like, it's so obvious, Raheem, because you're detailing something that would make sense, where they need what he provides in theory. Yet a guy who is going to go down as a Hall of Fame coach, right? Like Steve Kerr is one of the best coaches in the NBA in the last 30, 40 years. He clearly sees no value in playing him. So, like, this to me is like, it's one thing to second guess a coach when you're watching the game and you're seeing a team and whatnot. House, it's one of those. He's got to know something that we don't, right? He must.
There's clearly something going on inside that locker room, inside that building, that the rest of the world can't see. But they need live bodies for that Golden State team, especially for the next series, if this thing goes the way that I'm anticipating. I mean, to me, the thing is, like, Houston would try and say, oh, we had a bad shooting night. To me, if they get a good shooting night, that's going to be the outlier. That's how they're going to win a game. They'll get one game where everybody shoots and they say, oh, this is who we intend to be. And then Golden State puts the clamps on, and that'll be it. I love Golden State 4-2 plus 250 on the FanDuel Sportsbook right now.
We talk a lot about this Houston offense, but the Golden State offense hasn't been great either. It's really two guys. It's Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry. And if no one else is stepping up for the Warriors, then you're not going to get a high-scoring series. I mean, let's be real. The Rockets held the Warriors to 95 points. So that tells us that, they opened this total for game 2 at 206. I almost think that you need to be blindly playing these Warriors-Rockets unders until we reach a point of normalcy, because I just don't see this being a high-scoring series. I don't think either one of these two teams are going to be able to score very efficiently. So let's go with unders for the series.
Reach a point of normalcy. We'll try to do that on every single East Coast Bias show. I like that, Raheem. When we come back, are we talking about the exodus of Mr. Giannis in the next couple of games here for the Milwaukee Bucks? Loved Indiana in game 1. Took Indiana game 1 series. I don't love the spot in game 2. I'll get to that. We'll see if the boys are aligned. We'll come right back. All right, boys, let's get to the blowout section of the first weekend of the NBA playoffs. House, Indiana laid the smackdown against Milwaukee. Nembhard was tremendous. Indiana's got so many different ways to beat you. Milwaukee does not. And now we're seeing all of the narratives shift around Milwaukee. Oh, is it the end of Giannis with the Bucks? The Bucks are done. The Bucks are cooked. It's this, it's that. Here's my problem. I like Indiana for the series. I played them in game 1. I think 6.5 is an overreaction line, and that's why it's down to 4.5. I think this is going to be a tight game in game 2. I do. I could be wrong on this. I could have major egg on my face. I do think we're going to get a little bit of a response here from Milwaukee. I think Indiana wins. I just don't love this spot in game 2. You were bullish on the Bucks going into this series. I'm curious where you stand now after one game was played.
Where I stand is embarrassed, chagrined, not outraged, because I took my hard-earned American dollars and bet on a team coached by Doc Rivers up against Rick Carlisle, and it was exactly the kind of coaching mismatch that you expect. I fell in love with this Milwaukee lineup. The fact that Milwaukee went through a whole series of sort of rotation experiments over the course of the season. They found something it felt like in March, and I invested in that. And I especially like the idea of their ability to be physical with the Pacers. All that was out the window. I mean, Carlisle put Miles Turner in a pick and pop situation, and Brook Lopez wasn't within 15 feet of him. They just dared Giannis. They said, Giannis, go ahead, man. You can drive the lane. That's fine. Try and kick it out to any of these bums that are standing around on the perimeter. I mean, Taurean Prince, the Pacers were like, hey, you know who's not going to beat us on the perimeter? Taurean Prince. He took one shot in 20 minutes. They blitzed him. They double teamed him every time he touched the basketball. Milwaukee had no response whatsoever. They found out that there's two guys that they cannot play in this series. If you see Kyle Kuzma or Ryan Rollins get more minutes in this series, then you know exactly how quick the series is going to be over. Now, I do agree with the idea that the Bucks will show up with more force. Bobby Portis had an off night for him, 0 for 4 from 3. I expect some combination of Prince and Portis and Brook Lopez. They'll figure out a way to get Brook Lopez at the top of the key, knocking down threes again. If those guys get 5 or 6 threes, then that's what puts this series in a perspective where you could say, okay, and I would definitely be comfortable with the points. I didn't get in it when it was 6.5, and now I might just kind of stay away because I don't want to mess around with this coaching matchup anymore, Dream.
So, House, you're not going to take Kyle Kuzma over 10.5 points. That's what you're telling me.
That's a pass. No, that's a pass.
How expensive is the under? Because I need to go borrow some money.
Oh, my God. So we know Kyle Kuzma, he went out there and basically recreated the Tony Snell meme of doing nothing with his time on the court. But, I think the Bucks issue right now is defense. They cannot stop this Indiana Pacers team. The Pacers had an effective field goal percentage of nearly 60%. And it wasn't just in the half court where they dominated. They also dominated in transition. And, I took the Bucks. I said I was high on the Bucks coming into this series because I felt like Doc, with undermanned units, he typically performs well. And I thought they found something towards the end of the regular season. But as we go into the playoffs, the first thing you notice is that it was just Giannis. I mean, he had 36 points. And he had no help, zero help whatsoever. And there's going to be a lot of people who point to game 1 and say, well, the Bucks were 9 of 37 from behind the arc. And we know that the Bucks historically during the Giannis era, the role players have struggled to show up. But I think the real issue is defense. And I just don't see them stopping this Pacers offense at all. I do see some improvement from the Bucks offense. And I think that lends itself towards an over. So you saw this line at 227.5. You see it as high in the market as 229 in certain spots. I like the over in this game because I don't see the Bucks slowing down the Pacers, but I do think the Bucks can improve offensively. And I think if some of those 3-point shooting percentages go up, I think if other guys step up, Taurean Prince, Kyle Kuzma, he's got to score a point. If Kevin Porter Jr. can add some more, I think this game goes over. So that's why I'm looking for game 2, but I don't trust the Bucks to win this series at all.
So, Raheem, why did this line go from 6.5 to 4.5?
So it may appear that Damian Lillard is going to play. So I think the market is adjusting to that. But then also you're seeing attacks on a lot of these teams who are down, 0-1.
Some of them.
Yeah.
Some of them. There are some that we'll get to that. There are some you're not getting attacks on because the series, they're not worth discussing, to be perfectly honest with you. But I get that, Raheem, because the Laker game we talked about, tax. The Indiana-Milwaukee game with Lillard, potential tax. Clipper game, hey, they're favored in the game, for goodness sakes. You see that. It makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, I think the market is indicating that Damian Lillard will play. There's some people who got out of ahead of it. They're trying to get out ahead of the news. So they went ahead and took the Bucks with the points, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if Dame plays, and Dame hasn't played in weeks. We don't know what conditions he's going to be in. So that's a tough handicap for me.
I don't want to spend too much time, fellas, on the two other series in the Eastern Conference, Orlando and Boston and Cleveland and Miami. I'll just put it this way, House. Simply put, who is more likely to win a game? I will give you the option now after game one. Orlando or Miami?
Definitely Miami. I was really impressed with their effort. They're tough. They're so well coached. They're smart. They were in that game. I really thought I had laid the points with Cleveland minus 12.5. That felt at risk the entire game.
That was dicey. That was a very dicey spread.
Right until the last kind of 3.5, 4 minutes where Cleveland knocked down a couple threes and just created enough distance. Miami thankfully waved the flag. We got that one across the goal line. But Miami, it's the same Miami. They're competitive for 3.5 quarters. And that's really, been the case all season long. They get inside of crunch time, they start approaching crunch time. If the other team starts knocking down buckets, Miami's in trouble. They just can't match. They don't have the offensive firepower. Hero got his. Adebayo was solid, but that's just that's been who they are and who they've been all season long. But I do think you could catch Cleveland in a night where not the role players don't knock down all those threes, and that would be of the two, I prefer Miami over Orlando.
Dream, you in the same boat?
Yeah, it's definitely Miami over Orlando. Orlando, they have the same problem as Houston. They cannot score in the half court, and you look at that first half. It felt like they got like an outlier shooting performance. They were 7-18 from three, 38.9%. And it just felt like as soon as Boston said, you know what, we're gonna tighten the screws. We're gonna play some defense. You saw the Magic only had 18 points in the third quarter, 19 points in the fourth. I mean, they're not an NBA offense at this point in time, and they're really missing Jalen Suggs. So I think this is a sweep or 4-1 at best if the Boston Celtics gets bored, but I think the Boston Celtics should be able to win every game in this series. I mean, look, Jason Tatum didn't even have a good scoring game. He was 8 of 22, 17 points. Kristaps Porzingis was 1 of 8, 5 points. And they still won by 17 points. So, the Boston Celtics should be able to win this series rather easily. I do think the Miami Heat, they're competitive. I don't know if they're going to win a game either because, when you have the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're able to have what's my guy's name? Ty Jerome come off the bench for 28 points. They just have way more offensive firepower. So both of these are going to be short series.
Boys, we mentioned that tax on game 2. Particular teams. There's one where there's no tax. As ugly a game as you're going to see in round 1. We'll discuss, and Oklahoma City maybe still undervalued to win this thing. We'll come right back. I'm saving the worst for last. House, my God. Memphis, Oklahoma City. That was like a 116 matchup in the NCAA tournament. I mean, if you laid, or if you took Memphis plus 49.5, sorry, not good enough for you in that particular game. This Oklahoma City team, you talk about a statement, House. That's as big a statement as you could make in game 1. I know Memphis doesn't defend. I know they have issues. I know they played on Friday. My goodness, that's laying the smackdown.
Yeah, I could care less about Memphis or any kind of bounce back idea. Oklahoma City minus 15 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Lay it. It's fine. Go do it now. Don't wait. Oklahoma City's been beating teams' butts all season long by double-digit margins like this. When they sent the message, I think they're going to continue to send the message. This is not going to be competitive. Minus 15 is A-OK by me.
Yeah, the Grizzlies just don't have enough. I got flashbacks to, game 3 of the 96 finals when the Bulls beat the Jazz 96-54. But this was even worse. I don't know what answers or any adjustments that the Memphis Grizzlies can make. Apparently they thought Taylor Jenkins was the problem. And, I know he's got to be at home laughing at this. So I agree with House. Oklahoma City, they should be able to blow this team out, take them into the deep waters and drown them. And then also, if you look on FanDuel Sportsbook right now, I think you could still get them at even money for the sweep. So I think you need to go ahead and grab that. And, actually, it's minus 125 for the sweep right now on FanDuel Sportsbook. And if they're 15.5 at home, you're talking about 7 or 8 on the road. So they should be able to sweep the Grizzlies.
You're still talking about monstrous numbers. House, I would make that bet without hesitation because I think this Oklahoma City team also has something to prove. They don't strike me as the sort of team that's going to go in and lay an egg in Memphis. I don't see it. I think after what happened to them last year in the postseason, there are some skeptics, doubters. Hey, they're going to get out of the Western Conference. This is the perfect time to say, hey, this is the underbelly. This is the undercard. We're going to beat the you-know-what out of them. That's what they're going to do in this series. So minus 125, that's a family bet. I'm in. This is a sweep.
It's a sweep. Totally agree.
Boys, when we come back, best bets for a wide assortment of Game 2s across the board in the NBA postseason. We'll have it covered next. All right, boys, it's your time to shine. Best bets, Game 2s. House, floor is yours. What do we got?
I've got 2 for you. I've got the Oklahoma City Thunder sweeping the Memphis Grizzlies, but I'm playing it by a series spread minus 3.5. That's available on the FanDuel Sportsbook at minus 110. You parlay that with the Boston Celtics to sweep at plus 110. That pays out plus 300. That's 3-1 for the 2 best teams in the NBA, in my humble opinion, to sweep and set up that collision course in the NBA Finals. Other game that I like quite a bit is the LA Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm going to grab the points for the Timberwolves. I think they're going to compete. I don't mind the idea of Lakers winning, but I don't like laying all those points with the Lakers. So it's Minnesota plus 5.5 for me.
Rock and roll. Dream, what are we looking at?
Let's go to Tuesday night. Let's go with the Milwaukee Bucks, Indiana Pacers, over 227.5. Let's also go with, on Wednesday night, Houston Rockets, -2. I think they cover this spread. I'm also going to lay the 12.5 points with the Boston Celtics. I think that line is short. You got 14.5 in the first game or so, 13.5. I don't know how this number could go down. Give me the Boston Celtics to cover that.
For the Tuesday, Wednesday games, guys, I'm going to give you 2. Milwaukee Bucks, I'm holding my nose. I think they're going to play a spirited game against the Pacers. I'm grabbing 4.5. I think this is a one-possession game. I think you'll get a better effort from the three-point range from the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll see if Damian Lillard is going to return. Milwaukee plus 4.5. And I think the Miami Heat are going to cover Game 2 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm not saying they're going to win. I just think you will get fight like you did in Game 1. It was basically right on the number. I think we're going to get an 8 to 10 point game, which would go and cover your spread. That's going to do it for this edition of East Coast Bias. For House, Raheem, JJ signing off. We'll see you in a couple of days. A lot more basketball to get to. We out. Be good, everybody.